FilterShop's low mineral content RO system is a system we designed ourselves basically for quite a few different areas. We often get clients looking for a system for fish tanks and for making battery water and for doing electroplating, often for that work as well. There's basically quite a few areas where you really need a very, very low mineral content. Now, this setup you see here is specifically designed to create very low mineral content water at an affordable price. Typically, this would be called distilled water or deionized water. And in effect, what we've done here is to create a setup which gives you high quality deionized water at a very low cost. And this is what you get in the kit. It basically, the kit consists of, as a base, we use our premium 125 GPD RO system, but we do modify it quite extensively. The pre-filters that comes with it as standard is still the normal ones, 5 micron particle filter, a granular activated carbon filter to help remove chlorine, and another carbon filter, a carbon block, just to make sure you don't get any chlorine through to the membrane. We, however, changed the 125 GPD membrane with a 50 gallon per day membrane, and the reason for this is the older technology membranes actually wasted more water but then gave you a lower mineral content water. Now, for domestic consumption, this is a bad thing, but if you're specifically looking for the low mineral content water, you want it to be as low as possible before going into deionizing resin. And for that, the 50 gallon per day membranes actually work really well. The downside of using those membranes is that you typically will have about a 1:4 ratio. So you'd have 1 part product water, 4 parts water going down the drain. But unfortunately, that is what you would need for extremely low mineral content water. It comes with a supply connection to tee into a supply line with a valve to shut off the system. Comes with a chrome tap for getting your water from. We have plenty of fittings available for this size pump, so if you're looking for another setup, that is available. You include a little bracket if you want to, if you don't have a countertop, you want to mount it and want to mount the tap against the wall. A spanner for opening the housings when it's time to replace the filters. A little storage tank just to give you a bit of a buffer of water. Now, the storage tank on this system basically goes after the RO membrane but before the deionizing resin. So if the water absorbs anything from the tank, that is then removed by the deionizing resin. A valve for the tank to be able to shut it off, and then a bit of pipe. But let's have a look now at a little bit closer what is actually going on around here in the system, and why does this system then work for extremely low mineral content water. At first glance it looks quite complicated, but what we actually have here is a RO system. From the bottom, the feed from the pre-filter comes up, enters the membrane through a solenoid valve. It also has a low pressure sensor to prevent the system from running when the water pressure is too low, to prevent damage to the pump. This canister here is the biggest difference that we have on this one, and this is a color changing mixed bed resin cartridge. And basically what the mixed bed resin does is anything that the RO doesn't remove, it chemically bonds with and gives you a very, very low mineral content. What we've included in here as well, it is an option that you can remove, is a TDS meter with before and after readings. So you get a TDS reading from the RO, which gives you an indication of the health of the filters, and then a TDS reading after the mixed bed resin. And this gives you then your final product reading in TDS. What is very nice, it comes with quite a long cord, so you can actually mount this somewhere where it's visible, and then always when you're using the system have a reading of what is the actual mineral content that you're getting from it. If we start to take the system apart a little bit, we can dig down a little bit deeper. One of the big differences between this system And the standard RO system is that this is running on the more complicated electrical model. Instead of a four-way shutter valve, it's got a solenoid valve which is controlled by a low pressure and a high pressure switch. The high pressure switch is also adjustable, but this is basically when the system builds up pressure, in other words when the tank is full and the faucet is closed, the high pressure switch triggers, and that closes the solenoid valve which closes off the feed water to the system. Over here we have another solenoid valve. This is on the drain connection, and this is also one of the very important things for low mineral content water. Typically a RO system would work with a constant restriction in the drain, so there's always water running to drain, but just a little bit. But your first water that goes through the membrane is normally a higher mineral content until the thing really gets going. And what this one has, it has a solenoid valve bypassing the drain restrictor for 18 seconds, and that just flushes the membrane and immediately gives you then a very low mineral content water to work with. And the biggest advantage of that is your mixed bed resin lasts quite a bit longer, as you don't have that initial high mineral content water coming through the membrane. Unfortunately, this does increase your wastewater a bit, but I mean, if you're specifically looking for low mineral content water, we feel that you probably won't mind the bit of extra wastewater if it definitely gives you a good result in terms of your end mineral content. And that is basically a quick run through of the system. If you want a bit more information, or if you have specific requirements or require a different capacity system, give us a call or drop us an email. We have all the components, so we can build custom systems as well. It's just this is typically the size that's large enough for most people, but we can really build equivalent systems in many different sizes. So let's have a look at what's involved with actually connecting the system. To make your installation easy on this system, all of the connections really are these quick coupling connections, and they come with little end stops that have labels on it. The main reason for the end stops is that you don't even allow air through to go and deplete the mixed bed resin. But to remove them, simply remove this little blue clip, and then you push down on the front of the fitting. You'll see there's a little part that you can, and then you pull that out. Now, to insert a pipe, it's basically the same thing. You push the pipe in. If you push it in a little bit, you'll see it'll hold it, but it won't be sturdy. There's a little O-ring inside. You need to keep pressure on it until it goes past the O-ring, and then once the pipe is in place, you just reinsert the clip. Now these connections, this exact kind of connection is there for the incoming water, for the connection to the tank, on the tank itself, and to the faucet. The only ones that are a little bit different is your source water connection and your actual connection to the faucet. To connect your water supply, we provide a fitting to tee in on the flexible hose connections, which you typically find under basins. The standard one is 1/2 inch. We do have a 3/4 inch one available, and a PS valve for copper pipes as well. Basically, this has a valve that screws into it. It is a taper thread, but we always recommend putting a bit of PTFE tape on this connection here, and then it actually has a separate valve then to shut off the system. In this position it's closed, and this position is open. To actually connect it, once you've PTFE taped this side, you just remove this little nut, slide it over a piece of pipe, like so. So it's just, you just got a little bit of pipe sticking out there, and then you actually push the pipe over the connection there. Make sure it actually goes over that little ridge, and then you tighten the nut on there, and then you've got your source water connected. For the faucet, you've basically got a few components. You've got the main faucet itself. You get a little bag full of different fittings for different ways to mount it, but basically you need to just use some of these to see what would work the best to mount it to your specific table or countertop. Then it's got a nut on here which you compress all the fittings and the countertop with the top of between the top of the faucet and the nut. To connect the water supply, it's a little bit more complicated. What you've actually got is you've got 3 components which you need to put over the pipe. First, the metal nut needs to be slid over the pipe with the threaded side pointing towards the end. Then there's a little ferrule here which is basically a compression one, which it's tapered here and it's tapered on the nut, and that's what's going to push this into the pipe and give you a good seal. And then you've got just a little piece there which slides into the pipe to prevent the pipe from collapsing when it's undergoing the compression. And then you just push everything together at the end and tighten it to the bottom of the faucet. And that is basically it.